Hi, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. We're going to take a look at the third week of September, the astrology, some numerology, and a dash of Kabbalah. As a reminder, we are in the ninth month. And so the monthly vibration is the nine. And that is the Hermit card. Nine is a vibration of love and compassion and forgiveness. And so we all need to practice that this month. We are in a 7-year, 2023. If you add a 2, 2, and a 3, we get a 7. Is it the universal year? The year of coming to understand who you are. What is your spiritual purpose? What is your reason for being, really? And the 7 vibration is analytical, it's intuitive, and it is the year of knowing thyself. And so anytime you add a 9 to any number, you get the number that was added to the 9, in this case 7. But this is the 16-7 vibration. And 16-7 in the tarot is the Tower. And so this is a time of illumination. And I'm doing this about a week ahead of when this is actually going to, be out and is going to apply. And already the Tower is crumbling, and the reality of things and the truth is coming out. That Mars energy, that Tower energy, is connected to Mars in the tree of life, and the path between the reasoning mind and feelings. It is a path completely located in the lower self, and it is connected to the solar plexus. So there's a lot of energy for the solar plexus. But as we go from the solar plexus, the solar plexus is called Manipura, which means lustrous gem. And so the solar plexus is the place of focus for us. It is a chakra associated with the element of fire, and it is creative, and it is willful. And so, however, in order for us to be truly who we need to be in this time, we need to be our best selves. And that best selves comes as spirit and the body align, the higher and the lower align, and we become conduits of transformation and conduits of change. And there is a magic to being able to focus on what it is that you want to create. This is a very creative time. We are really, in a way, creating our reality. And so we have a power to co-create with spirit at this time. And so, but we can only do it if we're being in the truth of who we are. Okay, so that's the just general energy of September. And let's take a look at the week ahead. All right, let me share my screen here. You get to see all the technical stuff as it happens in real time. This is real time, folks. All right, we're gonna do oh, here we go. Okay. So we can see better. All right, so we're looking at the third week of September, starting with the 17th, which is the Sunday, which you start these from Sunday to Sunday. So that's how that generally works. And we do actually have something happen on Sunday. Sometimes there's nothing big happening, so don't really get into the week until later. But we start with Venus making a first quarter square to Jupiter. Venus and Jupiter are considered the benefics. Jupiter, the greater benefic, Venus, the lesser benefic. Venus is just freshly out of her retrograde cycle. She is moving forward now in the sign of Leo, but she is not out of her shadow. She doesn't actually get out of her shadow until October. So there's time for that, but still she is moving forward, and she is reborn. She has been to hell and is back. and she comes up as the morning star, which is who's going to fight for her right to what self-express, to be in charge of her heart. Okay. And we have Jupiter. Venus is in this particular one, this is the third of three. Venus is direct, but Jupiter is retrograde. The last time we had this square, Venus was retrograde and Jupiter was direct. And so Jupiter sometimes can be this energy of religion. Okay. And so I just saw today, as I'm sitting here, that in Mexico, I think it's in their constitution now that it's illegal to get an abortion anywhere in Mexico. And a woman, it's not a crime. Well, I want to say it's not a crime. I think that's the thing. And it all has to do with this green movement that's been sort of sweeping the world. It's also the same movement that got a rights to a safe termination of your pregnancy in Ireland, which is a huge thing, right? That was huge. And that was actually a couple of years ago. So gradually women's rights around the world are on the increase. And then, of course, there are places where women's rights are on the decrease. And we can see that in a place like Iran. But there's a balancing now. Things are going to change. Things are shifting. And Venus is ready to, it's interesting that Venus and Leo, you can just imagine Venus and Leo would have this glorious hairdo that you'd want everybody to see. And in Iran, that young woman was killed. That started the sort of revolution, because her hijab was not on right, and you could see her hair. And even like in the old days in the Catholic religion, a woman had to wear a hat into the church because her head was her glory and her hair was her glory, and it could not outshine the glory of God the Father, as it were. Plus, there was the veil over the crown chakra, saying that women, need to cover that, and they don't have direct connection to spirit. And in fact, they do. In fact, mostly. In fact, in the tarot deck, in the Lover's card, let me see if I can pull it out just to show you. In the Lover's card, the man is looking at the woman, and the woman is looking up at the angel. And this is symbolic that the way to God is through the feminine. And let me find the card, and you'll see what I mean. So we can see that the Adam there is looking at Eve, but Eve is looking at the angel. Excuse me. So, there's hidden meanings in everything, right? I mean, especially in the tarot cards. All right, so the interesting thing, and we're going to look at this Venus square Jupiter because this is the third of three. And that's because of the Venus retrograde cycle. So this would normally only happen once, but because of the retrograde cycle of Venus, this happens 3 times, and 3 is a charm, ladies and gents. This is a crisis in action square. And it's based on what are we taking an action on? We're taking an action on whatever seed was planted when these 2 benefics came together. And that would have, I believe that happened in Aries, but I should know. I have it on the next slide, so we'll take a look at it. But there's this like, take an action, take an action, take an action. So this is a time when that benefic force is sort of moving forward. And Jupiter also rules the law as the ruler of the 9th house. And the 9th house is associated with judges. And, we've seen Judge Chunkin and Judge Cannon and the judge down in Georgia, and then the judges in New York. So there's a lot of like judging going on, right? And at the same time, we have what's going on in the Supreme Court in the United States, right? Where they're being looked at and saying, hey, you guys have to like fly right here. You have to have a code of ethics. If you're not above the law either. It's very interesting that the executive branch, right, they thought he was above the law. These judicial branches think they're above the law, and so does the Congress, when people like Jim Jordan wouldn't testify or didn't go in for the subpoena because it was like the power of me is more important than the power of the we, so to speak. So it's interesting how that's going. But of course, with Pluto in Aquarius, we know where that's going to end up. We shall overcome, right? Okay, hold on a second. I have to see if I can get this camera. Not that you really have to see me clearly. I mean, I could do like the Carrie Lake and like just look like all fuzzy and perfect. Fuzzy and perfect, that's me. On Tuesday, the 19th, we have the Sun make an opposition to Neptune. This is the halfway cycle. This is the halfway point of the cycle. Oppositions are always about illumination, and we get one a year between Neptune and the Sun. Now, the Sun, Neptune is in Pisces. It's been in Pisces since what, 2011. And so in order for the Sun to be opposite Neptune for 14 years, because that's how long Neptune stays in a sign, it's the opposition happens in Virgo. Now, Virgo and Pisces are the two axes of healing. So for 14 years, we have these seeds planted of healing, and then we have the illumination around it. We're at that illumination point, and now it's up to us to take what we understand from what has happened over the last, say, 6 months since this happened. It takes about that long. In order for us to take what we understand and then disseminate it through the collective. And then once the Sun moves into Pisces, it's going to make a conjunction to Neptune again. And it sort of goes through, not every degree, because it would take 30 years, but almost every other degree, we have this conjunction, opposition, back to a conjunction, opposition. Okay. So the Sun opposing Neptune is the fruition of the seed planted at the Sun-Neptune conjunction on the 15th of March. Beware the Ides of March, right? 2023, which occurred at 26 degrees of Pisces. We're going to look at that. We also have on Tuesday, Mars making in conjunct to Jupiter. Mars is our energy. Jupiter is expansion. And it's sometimes difficult. You can overdo with this, or you can underdo with this, with your energy. So there needs to be a modulation in the way that you expend your energy. Mars is in Libra. Jupiter is in Taurus. The interesting thing about that is that those two signs are Venus ruled signs. So here we have Venus coming in, kind of running the show, which I'm thrilled about. On Thursday, September 21st, we have the Sun making a waning trine to Pluto. So the Sun, just like Neptune, right? The Sun comes to Pluto and then goes around the circle, 360 degrees. We're at the 240 degree point. That is the trine, and it's a trine that has the energy of Sagittarius. So things like truth and the big picture come into focus with this trine. And because we're dealing with Pluto, and Pluto happens to be in Capricorn, it's a real look at the powers that are running things. And so it's also a time when we to come to understand that, but it's also because we're dealing with Pluto, and it's a trine. It's an easy energy to shift and change and transform. So it's real important to focus on the things that you want to bring into your life, or focus on the things you want to see. Now you can really only, you'll really only have sort of agency over your own life in a way, right? But if we can connect at higher levels for things like peace and harmony and understanding, and just putting the light on what we've wrought and how we need to change that, right? So that's an energy here as well. On the 23rd, we have the sun's ingress into Libra. Of course, here in the northern hemisphere, that is the start of fall in the north. Did I say southern hemisphere? In the northern hemisphere, it's fall. In the southern hemisphere, our friends down under, as it were, they're starting their spring, and I know they're thrilled to pieces about that. But this time is one of two times in the year that the light and the dark are equal. And then the darkness starts to take over in the northern hemisphere and the light in the southern hemisphere. Now, light and dark is not negative and positive necessarily. We need time in the dark. The dark times are the introspective times. There's the time when activity is decreased, and we start to think. Now, this is the northern hemisphere, because in the southern hemisphere, they're just getting started, planting the seeds and doing what they have to do, right? But here, we're sort of at the end of a season, and that's what fall is about, right? Fall is, and it's a time of initiating into something new and new social situations, because Libra is social, right? A lot of kids go to college at this time, right? They're going back into college to be with their friends, to be with their contemporaries, to learn things, to discuss, to have the back and forth, right? All right. It is a world's point. All of the cardinal degrees, 1 degree of the cardinal signs, right, or 0.0000001 minute of the cardinal signs, is it's initiatory. The cardinals are initiatory in their nature, and in Libra we're initiating relationships. That's what we're doing, and that's what we're going to be focused on. But Libra is also justice, so we're going to be seeing a lot of justice. So a collection of perfect specimens of many biological forms. This is the first degree of Libra. A butterfly displays beauty of its wings, its body impaled by a fine dart. The keynote of this Sabian symbol is the immortal archetypical reality that a perfect and dedicated life reveals. So this is the ideal. This is the ideal. And Libra is also astrologically is associated with the oppositional. Aries Libra is the two signs associated with the energy of the opposition, I and thou, right? And so there's this, and it's also connected to projection. So we might see a lot of projection at this time. However, generally what you're seeing in somebody else is something that you judge in yourself, that bothers you, you judge in yourself. And so that gets reflected back to us. And we have to have all the experiences. So it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just that it's just a way of knowing that everybody in our life in some way is mirroring something about us that we kind of need to take a look at. The South Node is in Libra right now, so there's a lot of that happening anyway because of the South Node being there, and Pluto is still squaring the South Node. So our evolutionary imperative is to renegotiate contracts and move in a new direction, Aries, in the direction of life and being. Chiron is in Aries. All these people who feel like they're not being heard, that they have to obey. And then at the same time, you have the people who are begging for somebody to tell them what to do. All right, let's keep going. So I could go on and on and on for a long time with this one. Let me just see if there's anything I want to mention here. No. Okay. So yes, I actually do. Here's the path of the 7 vibration right here, and it's connected to Cancer. This is generally not a time for anything to be in Cancer unless one of the slower moving planets happen to be in Cancer, which is not the case. And so when the moon goes into Cancer, it would be an important time this month. But we do have Vesta moving into Cancer. It actually moved into Cancer last week. And so Vesta is what we devote ourselves to. And Cancer is nurturance and children and mothers and really the miracle of manifestation to a certain extent. And we all come in through Cancer, like the energy of Cancer. That's the mother. She's the matrix, and we come into the matrix. Okay. We have more. Well, I don't know. I was going to say something, but I don't think I will, because I don't think I'm rethinking what I was going to say. Let's look at the Venus-Jupiter synodic cycle. Venus and Jupiter synodic cycle, remember these are the 2 benefics, began on March 2nd, 2023, which incidentally vibrates to a 12-3, which is the Hanged Man card. It's also 12 is a magical number, right? There are 12 zodiac signs. 1, 2, 3, right? Ready, set, go. It occurred at 13 degrees of Aries. The Sabian symbol for 13 degrees of Aries is an unexploded bomb, reveals an unsuccessful social protest. The symbol pictures the result of a particular attempt to resolve the conflict between 2 concept feelings of order. Somebody with a motorcycle passes every night. This time, he's probably either going to work or coming back from work. I'm glad he's got a job. I wish his motorcycle was quieter, but he's not gonna be able to ride a motorcycle, after a while. So it's just a summer thing. All right. Resolution by violence fails because the ego power at this stage of the process of the individualization is far too strong. The state thwarts attempts at popular revolution. These are premature expressions of a consciousness which is not free, but can only react wildly to constraint and to a central ruling power. And so we can kind of see this happening. Now, this was the initial conjunction of these squares. The key word here is adolescent frustration. Now, if we look over here on the this side, we can see that the first square was June 11th of 2023. That day vibrated to a 24/6, which is the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands on the Tree of Life is found in the Sephirah of Saturn. We have Saturn in Pisces right now. In fact, Saturn in Pisces is sextile the Jupiter here and in conjunct the Venus. Okay, so it's actually even aspecting this square. If we go to the second square, that occurred on August 22nd. Now, interesting, we had June 11th. 11 is a master number. And we have August 22nd, 22 is a master number. This was the second square. Here we have Venus retrograde and Jupiter direct. Here we had Venus direct, Jupiter direct, Venus retrograde, Jupiter direct. It vibrated to a 37-1, which is the King of Cups in the tarot. Incidentally, this vibration, and this is associated with the planet Uranus, and Uranus is actually pretty close here. It's within orb of a conjunction, Jupiter and Uranus. It's still kind of far away, but it's getting closer, and it is influencing this Venus, because Venus did actually make a square to Uranus already, and she's going to she's actually made 2 squares to Uranus, I think, and she's going to make one more, and that's going to happen later in the week. Okay, so those were the first two. Now we go to the one, this one, the last one, the one that we're in, and we see Venus is direct and we see Jupiter is retrograde. The first one on the 11th of June occurred at 6 degrees of Leo and Taurus. Sabian symbol for 6 degrees of Taurus, a cantilevered bridge across a deep gorge, the conquest of separateness through group cooperation. Crisis in action square to 6 degrees of Leo, a conservative, old-fashioned lady is confronted by a hippie girl. So we can see this sort of battle between the traditional and the more progressive, right? We see that. We see there's a confrontation. But it's interesting that they're both women, because I think that what's going to happen is that women are going to start to realize their commonality. It's already happening, right? How many Republican women in red states don't think that there should be these abortion laws, right? Because they're too strict. They're not taking into consideration reality and a woman's right to her own bodily autonomy. They're not digging that. There's only a couple of women, who think it's great. I mean, nobody like wants babies to die, right? It's not like that. It's just that you have to, like, if you're going to bring a child into this world, there should be a place for that child and an opportunity, not just, a broodmare. I mean, Jesus, right? Okay. The second first quarter square was at 16 degrees of Leo and 16 degrees of Taurus, okay? 16 degrees of Taurus, this is very interesting. An old teacher fails to interest his pupils in traditional knowledge. That probably sounds familiar to a lot of people, doesn't it? Kids today, they're doing their own thing. They really are. And the old ways, traditional ways, the tried and true ways, first of all, for most kids, it's too expensive. But otherwise, it's like, there's a change, there's a shift. They understand what the future looks like, and they know that they're going to have to come together if they want to survive the future. Okay. They're not going to leave it in the hands of the oldsters who think they know everything. But it's just a story they're telling themselves. Okay. This is square, crisis in action square to 16 degrees of Leo. The storm ended. All nature rejoices in brilliant sunshine. The keynote here, the surge of life and love after a major crisis. This day, this particular day, vibrates to a 33.6. So we had something happen on the 11th. We had something happen on the 22nd, and this day, which is the 17th, right, vibrates to a 33. That's 3 master numbers, along with this vibration of Jupiter squaring Venus. And here it is on the tree of life. This is the Sephiroth, the blue one is the Sephiroth of Jupiter. This is the Sephiroth of Venus. We have Venus in Leo. We have Jupiter in Aquarius, in Taurus. This path that runs between them is the Wheel of Fortune. Change. Things are changing. All right. I have to turn a fan on, and hopefully it's not too loud. So I'm going to put it on low, and hopefully you can still hear me because I'm sweating. Hot. It's hot when there's no air flowing. Okay. So this is, next thing we're looking at is the Sun-Pluto. Okay. This trine is a 240-degree trine. Over here we have the chart of the conjunction. This was the start of the cycle that started on, I believe, the 18th of, I have to move something. The 18th of January, when these two planets came together at 20 9 degrees of Capricorn. Now, remember, this was before it dipped its toe into Aquarius, right? So it was in Cap. We had the conjunction in Capricorn, but part of that time, Pluto actually went into the next sign. So there's a flavor to this that includes that energy of Aquarius. Okay. And I think by the time it is, no, I don't actually know. I didn't look to see the next conjunction. It might actually be an Aquarius. I should check that. Hold on a second. I'm going to check that. So, and the next conjunction is going to happen in February. And by that time, Pluto's going to be back in Aquarius. So the next cycle of the sun and, or did I say Mars? It was Mars. I was thinking Mars. The sun might be, no, the sun is in Aquarius, is in Capricorn. But Mars is in Aquarius. I don't know why I looked at that. Wow, that's interesting. So the next time Mars and Pluto come together, it's going to be in Aquarius. So that's really going to push the Aquarian energy pretty hard. All right, hold on one second. Let me see about the next conjunction of the Sun and Pluto. I started looking and then I got distracted by Mars, which, you know, it can happen. Ah. All right, sun. Where's the sun here? So the sun is at 29. Actually, the sun conjuncts at the 30th degree of Capricorn, and then Mars will conjunct out the 1st degree of Aquarius, and that's going to happen next year. So next year really is a whole different ball game, honestly. All right. So the interesting thing about the Sabian symbol for that initial conjunction, which occurred at 29 degrees of Capricorn, reads a woman reading tea leaves, the ability to see the signature of hidden meaning in every occurrence, drawing one's attention, clairvoyance, the capacity to see in everything the signature of deeper realities. This is pattern recognition. We're seeing patterns. We are understanding patterns in a way that we haven't understood before. And we'll see the patterns in the people that we don't like, and we'll see the patterns that we see in the people and the things that we stand for as well. And so we'll all get tested with this. We're all going to get tested. We are now at the disseminating portion of this cycle, where it comes to understanding the lessons of how those lessons are distributed through the collective. The sun is now at 28 degrees of Virgo, a bald-headed man who has seized power, the sheer power of personality in times that call for a decision. The key word here is the power of the will. And remember, I said that the will is in the solar plexus, and we're in a tower month. Okay, we're in a tower month. That's that energy. In a distributing trine to Pluto, 28 degrees of Capricorn, which happens to be the Pluto of the United States. A large aviary, the enjoyment of spiritual values by a soul able to familiarize itself with its implications. This is an ability to be comfortable within a diversity of energies, a diversity of people, a diversity of ideas, a diversity of different birds singing, and understanding the need for peace in that. Okay, let's continue. Whoops. All right. Next. Wish I could see this. There we go. Now we're going to look at the sun's ingress into Libra. This is a chart for the US, so my apologies to anybody else who might not live here. This is the balance point between the light and the dark. Libra is a Venus ruled sign. Libra is a Venus ruled sign. So we have the first degree of Libra, right? The sun in Libra. I actually said this right at the very beginning, but I'll repeat it. It's worth repeating. First degree of Libra, in a collection of perfect specimens of many biological forms, a butterfly displays the beauty of its wings, its body impaled by a fine dart. There is now a trend toward the formation of collective collectivity of individuals. This is remember that the I don't know what happened to my internet. It's just like zapped out. Now I'm back. So I was saying that we have the sun move into Libra. The sun is disposited by Venus. Remember Venus? Venus has been in charge quite a bit so far. And so we look at Venus, we look at the degree of Venus, and Venus at this point now, she's moving forward, is at up to 19 degrees of Leo. And that Sabian symbol is a houseboat party. The enjoyment of temporary freedom from rigidity, structured social behavior. The keyword, freedom from social rigidity. This symbol speaks of the fact that there's a bunch of different people on a boat in this giant sea, and that there's a connection to the unconscious because they're on the sea, and there's an understanding that there's a theme running between all of us. We are all connected, folks. And for as good as we are at fighting each other, imagine how good we could be if we would just work together. We have to. We don't have a choice. This is an extinction. If we don't do something soon, and it may be too late, but it may not be, or maybe this is just the simulation, and we can change this. We can change the program, switch the channel to life that is more in line with our hearts. The energy is there for it. Interesting thing about this day is that there's an aspect to the sun that's very tight. Within, let's see, we have the sun at 0, 0, 0 course, right? It's the first degree. And we have Jupiter at 1459. It's a minute away from an exact sesquiquadrate, Jupiter and the sun. Now, Jupiter and the sun, when they get together, can be pretty, let's say, braggadocious, arrogant, sure of themselves, cocksure, that kind of energy. But the sesquiquadrate is an energy that is an ego buster. So it will be interesting to see how that manifests itself this month. The sun sesquiquadrate Jupiter. So self-control can be a challenging area for you to navigate. Rather than taking proactive steps to prepare for the future, you have a tendency to rely on the belief that you can fix things later on. The mindset can lead to overindulgence, overspending, and neglecting important aspects of your daily life. So this is a bit of a warning, guys. This is a bit of a warning. We have to take steps to create the future instead of waiting for it to meet us and then having to react to it in a crazy way because we don't have any agency, we don't have any plan, we don't have any vision for the future. Now, there are plenty of people out there with visions of the future, don't get me wrong, but this is what the this is what the charts are saying. All right, and so that's it. That's the week. Quite interesting. Hopefully this video came out okay because of the problem with the internet. So I hope you got to hear all of this. I'll be back next week to do the next week, and the last week, the last say 6 days of the month. And until then, have yourself a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. I'm going to be starting my beginners astrology this week, and my introduction to the Kabbalah this week. I will put those times and dates in the descriptor, and I'll make an announcement for that. So that's what's happening, folks. All right, guys, take care. Much love, as always. Namaste.